What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the Canadian Football Fanatics weekly show. Blake and I coming at you guys Wednesday at 6 p.m. sharp. As always, talking some Canadian football on a weekly basis. Blake, thanks for joining me, buddy. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing good, Cole. I was on the early shift this week, so I'm not just getting off work, so that's kind of nice, and just spending some family time here quickly. Want tomorrow to be over so we can get back to BC Place.
No doubt, my friend. I am looking forward to tomorrow night and being in the building once again. But before we do get to all of the good Canadian football talk here tonight on the Canadian Football Fanatics weekly show, as always, Blake, smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, comment down below, let us know how you're feeling in the chat here tonight. And if you guys are watching over on Twitter, on the Canadian Football Fanatics Twitter account, that is at _ CF Fanatics on Twitter, or X, whatever the kids are calling it these days. Head over there. You guys can watch us live over there as well. And Blake, we do have some news for the first ever time here tonight on the Canadian Football Fanatics weekly show. We are live on Facebook as well. For anybody that's on Facebook, you're able to go and search up the 13th Man Sports Facebook page, and you'll be able to find us going live right now as well. I believe we have one viewer actually over on Facebook, so shout out to you for viewing over on 13th Man Sports. Continue to follow along for a ton of contributions from Blake and I over at 13th Man Sports, whether it be content creation, the few articles that I do write. Stay tuned, folks. My Power Rankings 2.0 will be out probably come maybe July 1st, somewhere in to start July. So after the weekend wraps up, let me gather my thoughts. And the cool thing about our Power Rankings articles that we're doing over at 13th Man Sports is we're doing it monthly instead of weekly. I think it gives myself personally a little bit bigger sample size to kind of gain. I feel like you can put a little bit more stock into where you put a team rather than week by week. I think things in the Canadian Football League, Blake, as we know, change on a week to week basis so fast. So I think that's a little hard, but that's why power rankings are around, because it's to get us to talk about it, Blake. Hopefully, you guys are able to talk about my power rankings that comes out next week sometime. So stay tuned for that over at 13th Man Sports and all that good stuff. As always, head on over to the Instagram. Please continue to follow, like, comment, all that good stuff over there. I believe we're up over 400 followers now on the Instagram as well. So continue to support that. All that has been greatly appreciated as well. So I guess that is all about kind of reminders before we get into the show here tonight. As always, you can expect the 2 minute drill from us, quickly recapping last week's action in the CFL, and then we will be joined by BC Lions color analyst, former Lions quarterback Julio Caravetta around 6:15 to talk some Lions. Julio will probably stick around for about 15 minutes, get him out of here around 6:30, and then Blake and I will preview this week's matchup versus the Edmonton Elks from about 6:30 to 7. And then, as always, at 7 o'clock, Shane Ryan from 13th Man Sports. Shout out to Shane. Will be joining us once again for our CFL quick picks of the week, where we give you guys our quick picks for every matchup in the CFL this upcoming week. So, without further ado, folks, shout out to everybody that's tuning in. Jordan, let's go, he says over on Facebook. I believe our first ever listener over on Facebook, so shout out to you. And then, as always, Jay, a loyal listener from the beginning. He's looking forward to the autographs tomorrow. Should be a lot of fun. I agree as well, Jay. So let's get into it, folks. The 2 minute drill here on the Canadian Football Fanatics weekly show, where we recap last week's action in the CFL. And last week was week 3 in the CFL. And we were kicked off by the Montreal Alouettes and their offense dominating the Ottawa Red Blacks after they had a week number 2 bye. And Montreal continues to look very strong, not only offensively, but defensively, Blake. And I can't wait to see their matchup this week in the CFL. Moving on to Friday night's matchup, we saw a close one, but the BC Lions defend off the Winnipeg Blue Bombers and keep Winnipeg winless on the season. I don't know, Blake, is it time to panic in Winnipeg? Stay tuned. Maybe we'll talk about it in a little bit. And on Saturday, we saw a thriller, actually. I wasn't able to catch this one live. I was able to go ahead and rewatch the one posted on YouTube afterwards. And the Argos won a thriller in Toronto, 39-36 over Edmonton. Edmonton continues to play in tight ball games, but continues to find ways. And it's not like I believe they didn't ultimately find ways to lose this. I think the Argos are a good team and kind of deserve to win just as much as Edmonton did. Just I think it came down to a few misplays here and there, and then just I feel like they have a little bit of a stigma over there, and just they can't get over the hump for some of these games. But they lose another one, and Argos look impressive after their week 2 bye, winning 39-36. And in the last game of the week, in week 3, we saw the Saskatchewan. I was about to say the Saskatchewan Ticats. Saskatchewan Rough Riders beat the Hamilton Tiger Cats in their home opener, 36-20. But quarterback Trevor Harris for the Saskatchewan Roughriders, leaves the game, and Shea Patterson comes in to finish it up. Definitely a little bit concerns there, but the Riders move to 3-0 on the season going into their bye week at probably a perfect time if you're Trevor Harris and the Riders. So that will do it, folks, for this week's 2-minute drill. Blake, before we get on to a little bit of news on my part, is there anything that jumps out or maybe that you want to talk about when it comes to last week's action in the CFL?
Yeah, I'm stealing this from our buddy Cliffy Pine from the Alouettes flight deck, but they are no longer the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. They are now the Ninnipeg Blue Bombers until they win another game. They can't use that W anymore. So yeah, that's all I wanted to say.
I love it. Blake's been not shy about piling on the Bombers, and I do not blame him because, um, as a bitter rival for our BC Lions here in the last few years, um, definitely want to see our Lions get up over them, not only in the regular season but in the playoffs here. But I also think the Bombers still got a little bit left in them. Now, do more injuries pile on that they can't overcome? I think that is
Yeah,
the question.
not to cut you
Schoen, I
off,
believe,
Cole, but he's out now too.
yeah, Dalton Schoen placed on the 6-game injured list. So you start to wonder who's going to be catching the ball outside of Nick Dembski. Obviously, Wolotarski we talked about on the post-game show had a nice game for them, but outside of that, Ontario Wilson I believe didn't really. I think he got injured if I'm not mistaken, and then
I
didn't
think
have
so.
the best game as well. So I do have confidence in the Bombers to say that as long as they have Coach Mike O'Shea, Zach Collaros, and Brady Oliveira. Um, I have confidence in them, but they've proven in 2 out of the 3 weeks they've had them in the lineup and they've lost, right? So um, time will tell. I don't think. I guess I hate to say it because as Lions fans I'm calling for must wins last week. I don't know if this is a must win game for Winnipeg, but it's probably as close to it this early into the season. I don't see them getting out of an 0-4 hole this early. No matter who's coming back, Kenny Lawler, Dalton Schoen, you name it. But still interesting action in the CFL last week. Blake, let's get into some news on my part before we get any further. For anyone that's tuning in, folks, stay tuned for Julio Caravetta. That'll be joining us here in about 5 minutes' time to talk some BC Lions football as always. Julio, friend of the podcast, friend of the program, has came on quite a few times throughout the years now and is always generous with giving us his time and his insight on the podcast here. So, Blake, a little news for the listeners, a little news for the viewers afterwards. For those that know, like I mentioned a little bit earlier, I do some writing for the 13th Man Sports website as well as cover the BC Lions as best as we can with Blake here on the channel, whether that's the CF Fanatics weekly show, whether that's Blake and I's post game show, the 3 keys to victory, stuff like that, right? Blake and I kind of being up at training camp. I think Blake and I try to make it a goal of ours to give you guys the best coverage that we can as possible. And in doing so, I thought there could be no better way to give you guys the best coverage possible than to try to apply and start the process of getting my media credentials so I could get a little bit more access to the team, get kind of a better view up top, I guess, if you want to call it that, as well as, maybe be able to listen in on some of the post game, interviews, stuff like that. Touch elbows with some guys in the media as well that I'm hopefully looking forward to learning a lot from. And I guess I can officially say on a game by game basis, I do have my media credentials, I believe is the, I guess, right term for the BC Lions. So Tomorrow night will be my first game ever covering the BC Lions with my credentials officially. Super looking forward to being in the press box, seeing how you view the game from up top like that, as well as hoping to stick around afterwards so I'm able to hear what Coach Campbell and a few of the players have to say post game. I think that'd be a pretty cool thing and opportunity for me, for us. And I First off, I want to start with a lot of thank yous. First and foremost, obviously, Blake, to you, my shotgun rider, co-host buddy. I couldn't do it without you. And obviously, this is like I mentioned, the only it's only the beginning for us, and we are going up from here. Um, Thank you to obviously Shane at 13th Man Source for giving me allowing me to kind of contribute on his platform. It's been a great I've learned a lot because for people that don't know me, I really didn't like writing in high school and stuff like that. So now to enjoy writing and stuff like that, post game and articles, I really enjoy that. So just thank you to Shane for allowing me to be on this platform, as well as a couple thank yous to, obviously Julio, who's in the business, has always been kind of a I guess like a role model or kind of somebody that I've been able to look up to. Had a little bit of a relationship, not too close, but a guy that's kind of been, like I mentioned, super generous with his time. Whenever I ask, he comes on here. He's able to give us his insight, and he was actually the first person that kind of put it in my head to, why don't you get your media credentials and get a little bit more access to the team? This is what you want to do. And then next, obviously, Chris Faber, former Canucks Conversation founder, now works with Vancouver Canucks. He also kind of got me in touch with Matt Baker, who runs all the social, I guess, what's his official title, Blake?
I think he's like manager of communications or something like
Yeah,
that.
he's just a big part of behind the scenes for the Lions and stuff like that. If you need to get in touch with somebody that kind of knows answers and stuff like that, Matt Baker's the guy. So shout out to Chris Faber. He's always also believed in me and a guy that's I feel like been in my shoes before, where he started with a little podcast and made it big. So shout out to Chris Faber, number whatever it is now, as well as a few others. Shout out to Rod Peterson, who's also been generous and kind of been a role model of some sorts to me as well. Been generous with his time once again, and of course, couldn't do it without my lovely girlfriend, Carly. So I gotta thank her for allowing me to do all this crazy stuff. Allow me to record 2-hour shows on a weekly basis with Blake, post game shows. So just thank you for her because I know she has to sacrifice a lot as well. Coming to Grey Cup and all that stuff, getting dragged along to Touchdown Pacific. As much as she wants to maybe act like it's a pain, she's enjoying watching some football, enjoying spending some time with me. So just a big bunch of thank yous to everybody, and I cannot wait to cover my first game tomorrow in person. Blake, but I think this probably segues perfectly into our next guest who joins us right now. Friend of the podcast, friend of the show. Not the first time we've seen this gentleman joining us here on the show. He is former BC Lions quarterback, now color analyst for the team. That is Julio Caravetta. Julio, thanks for joining us. How you doing?
Hey, Cole, how are you?
I'm doing very well, Julio. I'm excited to talk some football tonight. I'm excited to see you. I know it's been a little while, but Blake and I obviously.
Hey, out there.
What's that, Julio? Sorry.
Yeah,
Julio,
you're kind of cutting out on me.
Do you got me okay, Julio?
Yeah, I can't hear you very well.
What's going on, Julio?
Can you hear me now, Julio?
Yeah, I can hear you a bit better now.
Okay, awesome. Sorry about that, folks, for a little technical difficulties, but excited, like I mentioned, to talk some football, excited to talk some BC Lions football specifically. I know it's been a while since we've had Julio here on the podcast, but Julio, exciting times. The Lions back at home tomorrow.
I'm sorry, I still can't hear you.
Yeah, oh, darn it. Julio, are you able to hear me okay now? Blake, are you able to go through?
I can hear you, yeah. Julia, how's my sound?
Yeah, you guys
No?
you're breaking up. You're kind of in and out, the both of you.
We don't have very good connection right now.
I can. Julio, is that a little better?
That's a little bit better. Yeah.
Odd. For anyone, sorry
Can you
about
hear
the
me?
technical difficulties. I can hear you. I can hear you fine, and I'm getting through to Blake. But somewhere in the
Yeah.
middle, we're getting a little bit of. I think it's just a little bit of a
I
connection
hear
issue.
kids
But
screaming.
can you hear me okay now, Julio? Can you hear me okay, Julio?
Yeah, I can hear you. There, I heard some kids. Yeah, I can hear you now.
Oh, awesome. Might have been Blake's end, but not too sure. I apologize for the technical difficulties, folks. But let's
There
get
you
to the football, Julio. How excited are you to see the Lions back at home tomorrow?
Yeah, no, I'm super excited. You know, I think obviously it was a big win on in Winnipeg. I thought they played excellent. You know, they're showing me signs early of a real resiliency to this team, like their ability to kind of come back, and especially when they really needed some plays, they were able to make them. And yeah, so you know, it's again, Cole. You know, the other thing, buddy, is this time of the year, right? You know, it's early. You're still trying to figure things out, but when you're able to kind of win these games, and just you know, you're still trying to figure things out. And I still think there's lots of areas to improve. They're in a very, you know, you're in a much better situation. This is going to be a big game for them, given the fact that the Elks are 0-3. They're coming off a short week as well. You know, anytime you can put a team a little bit more distance in your own division, you know, is a good thing. So, you know, Edmonton is going to come in here hungry, and the Lions are going to have to match that intensity.
Absolutely. So hopefully there's no technical issues coming in. But Julio, if you're able to hear me, if anyone's able to hear me, all right, please let us know in the chat down below. But Julio, let's start first and foremost, as we always do. Let's talk about the quarterback. We saw obviously VA not practicing earlier in the week, but he was, I believe, what they listed as full yesterday, if I'm not mistaken, was their last practice day. And he spoke with
No,
the media today. Kind of. What's that? Sorry, Julio.
Yeah, yesterday. Yeah, he didn't practice yesterday apparently, but he did participate today.
Right. Sorry.
So yeah, no, that's fine. I know there's been lots of stuff out there. But yeah, I watched today, and he didn't throw the ball at all, but he did take all the first team reps. So I just think it was just a way to give him another day of rest. It sounded like, you know, nothing too serious, but they were being super cautious as far as you know, not allowing him to practice and making sure that he gets as much rest as possible. So that's a good sign. So we're going to find out tomorrow night whether or not he's 100%.
Yeah, and sorry, Julio, can you hear me better now?
Yeah, I can hear you a little bit better now, but it kind of breaks in and out. But
yeah,
go ahead.
Sorry about. Can you kind of give us some insight on when Vernon Adams picked up the injury? As I talked to some people at the Winnipeg game, they didn't think it happened at that game. Was it in Winnipeg, or was it something that's kind of been lingering longer?
Yeah, no, I honestly don't think it was. You know, the one I missed them. I wasn't at Monday's practice, and apparently at Monday's practice he was a full participant. So it was yesterday. I think he woke up and felt a little twinge in his abdomen, I think, and they just, you know, were whether or not he slept wrong or whatever the issue was. Maybe he just had some type of a spasm, or you know, you just never know. And they're never going to tell us. But you know, he you know, as I said, he took all the reps today, and I think so that'll be 3 days. Well, by the time he gets to the game, almost full 3 days of rest. So and you know, Vernon's been around a long time, and I think you know, he'll be fine as far as, you know, knowing what to do and where to go with the football. You know, I just every week I'm super impressed with his preparation for games is outstanding, and how, you know, all the meticulous things. I sit close to him on the plane, and to watch him on the plane go over his playbook and go over his wristband and write things out, and just you can see him close his eyes and visualize where he should be going with the ball on what plays, and he's verbalizing. You can see in his own tempo plays, and then, before the game, was probably 2 hours before the game, he's on the field, walking up and down the field, doing the exact same thing, going from hash to hash in the middle of the field, going over plays, visualizing where he's supposed to go with the ball. So, Vernon's preparation is just outstanding. And I always say that if you're a young quarterback, come out and take a look at what you need to be able to do to be successful as a pro, because, that meticulous preparation is something that is very, very, it separates the good from the great.
Yeah, so let's talk about a group that is quick to get a lot of crap, but won't get a lot of praise. And I think that's the offensive line. And for back-to-back weeks, Julio, we didn't see them give up a sack. I think that's terrific after obviously a lot of, I guess you could say, criticism after week one. And then we get the two starters that obviously get placed on the 6-game injured list, David Nemble and Michael Couture. But we had two new guys come in and play pretty well and have kind of, I feel like, stacked hopefully a few games here to build some confidence. What have you seen from, Tyler Packer, I believe it is, and Chris Schleger stepping in and kind of being able to, rise to the occasion here?
Yeah, no, super impressed, especially with Tyler. Tyler Packer was I think he was a 6th-round draft pick out of Calgary. He's been here for a few years, but he played tackle in college, and then he's played a little bit of guard in the while he's been on the practice roster and them trying to find him a place. So, his ability to move to center and do what he's done to this point is pretty impressive. That is not an easy position to play, and so. Tyler's done an outstanding job of, because it's a different perspective in there, right? When you're in the, first you got to snap the ball and then you're calling out the usually the calls and you have to be like the quarterback of that offensive line. And, you just can't argue with the results, right? When you give up 6 sacks and, you take some heat for that, some changes were going to come and they have, and they've resulted in a couple of wins and, a couple of games where they didn't give up sacks or, they give up a few pressures. Of course, that's going to happen in a game, but overall, Slugger and Packer have been very, very good, and they're going to continue to get better with more reps, right? Like that's the thing is, those guys, when they start to get into games and feel what real reps are like and game time, game speed, they're only going to get better and better. So I know I was talking to Kelly Bates today about Slugger, Chris Slugger, and he loves his toughness and his ability to, get in there and be physical. But, at the same time, there's a lot to learn, especially if you haven't played guard, right? Say if you've been a tackle your whole life and now all of a sudden you're inside, it's a new perspective, a new style of game. So I just, I'm just, again, super impressed with both those guys, and moving forward, they're going to be only going to get better, which is a good thing for the Lions.
Yeah, and Julio, speaking of getting better, have the Lions found themselves a new receiver in Andrew Pearson?
Are you talking about Stanley Berryhill?
No,
the
trick play last week with Pearson making a catch.
Oh, Pearson. Oh, with Pearson. Oh, yeah. I mean, I said during the course of the game, or when it happened, that I was super impressed. I was that, Andrew, he leaked out. That was always the design. But, if you look at the replay or when it happened at the time, like Vernon was looking to his right and then looked over the middle, and, he took his number 1 read, it wasn't there. His second read wasn't there. And then quickly flipped his hips and knew that third guy should be there. And, really, didn't take anything off it, just zipped it right to him. And I was just super impressed with the fact that he caught it with his hands, right? Like it was all hands, and then upfield he goes. So I said to Kelly too today, Bates, I said, it was a good thing that the ball came at him 100 miles an hour, because it didn't give him time to think about anything. It just was on him right now. So always exciting when you get the offensive lineman to get to catch the football, because I think it really jacks the team up, right? They get all fired up for a guy like that to see him catch a football and then get downfield.
And a great guy like Andrew, I feel like is well respected in that locker room. A good team guy who is always supportive. And I know they touched on a guy
Yeah.
that's obviously was a former starter, is kind of in that reserve role now, and just steps up, does his job when his number is called, whether that be short yard, tight end, big tight end type thing. But Julio, let's jump over to the defensive side of the ball, and I believe it was reported that there's been some moves or some things shaken up in the secondary. I believe Jordan Perryman's been taken out. I believe Seontae Evans has moved outside to corner, and Ronald Kent has moved to starting at halfback for Seontae Evans. What have you seen from the secondary this year, and kind of what are your, I guess, thoughts on the moves there?
Okay, so you were kind of cutting out there, but I think I got most of what you were saying is about the secondary moves and
Yes.
Seontae Evans moving to corner, and then Ronald Kent the half. Yeah, yeah. I mean, the one thing that we saw during training camp was Ryan Phillips is very really is really big on versatility and your ability to play really all three spots in the back end, and that's one of the things that he wanted. He wanted versatility, and then that's what they're showing early on here is that versatility. They've had a couple of things happen in the back end that they've needed to adjust, and they seem to be adjusting very well. I think like a guy like Manny Rugamba deserves a ton of credit from being able to go to that nickel or sandbacker to half. I just love. I mean, he's a tough football player. He's super smart. I just really enjoy watching him play. And then Seontae's he's a veteran, right? I mean, he's been around the league 8 years. He's been around, and his moving from half to corner is, I don't think, going to be a real big deal for them. I think he's done it before, obviously. So Ronald Kent Jr. is another guy that I really was impressed with at training camp because of his versatility, and he's one of those guys that if you talk to the veterans on the team, that they figured that when he got his opportunity that he was going to show that he deserved to be on the roster every week. So, he's done well. And I mean, the thing about it too, here's the thing, guys, when you're a new player in the CFL, especially in the secondary, there are going to be some times when there's mistakes made and you're going to get beat. It's just, it happens. But what you want to see is just the improvement from week to week and growth. And I think that's one of the things that when we talk to Rick Campbell is about Ronald Kent and a lot of these young guys is that it's what he sees week to week, right? He sees that growth. He sees that, they make a mistake, they're not going to make it another time, right? So that's super important. And again, that secondary is led by Gary Peters, who again is just rock solid. And Adrian Green is coming along really nicely at safety, and he continues to get better and better and makes more and more plays, and his confidence is growing. So I like that secondary, and I like the versatility. You got to have it. Guys, we talk about this every year. You need depth in this league. You need depth because you're going to have injuries. You're going to have people go down, and you're going to need other guys to step up and you not miss a beat. And that's what you need. And, I don't know if you guys, when we were talking about the receivers, that's like Stanley Berryhill, right? Like he gets an opportunity to jump in there and he makes the best of it. And now all of a sudden he's going to be on the field because they got rid of Travis Fulgham, right? So, it's the nature of the beast in this league, right? When you get your opportunity, you better take advantage of it.
All right, Julio. And lastly, before we get you out of here, a CFL question to close things out for me, Julio. Can you talk about the parity in the CFL of this year? I feel like it's really good this year in terms of having a lot of competitive teams. I feel like the 2-0-3 teams with Hamilton and Edmonton have been pretty competitive in all their games this season. So, what have you seen from this year as a CFL fan?
Okay, buddy. I'm sorry. I cut out on me a little bit. I didn't catch the whole question. Could you repeat it again?
I'm just asking about the parity in the CFL, Julio, and how you think that is this year.
Oh, parity. I got you. Yeah, I mean, I think that going into this year, I think a lot of us in the West, thought the West was going to be very, very difficult and was going to be a real dogfight right to the end. Even though Edmonton and Winnipeg have gotten off to slow starts, I still think that they're good football teams, and they're gonna bounce back. So you know, I love the parity. I think that obviously the competition week to week is going to be fierce. I don't think there's very many. There's not a weak team in the league where you're counting your days until you match up against them. I think there's, like you say, there's good parity across the league, and I still think it's early. We've seen way too many cases of teams that get off to slow starts and then start to really pick up steam in the middle of the year and then really turn it on towards the end. So I like to always think to it this way. I break the season up into thirds, right? The 18, 6 and 6 and 6. That first 6 games, you're really trying to find yourself, develop your identity. If you can get out of the first 6 games, 3-3, if 4-2 would be fantastic. And then you start to build momentum heading into the middle of the year. And then obviously the last 6 is where you really want to start to peak. So, but it's going to be interesting tomorrow with the Lions and the Elks, because Edmonton is, there's a lot of pressure there. They've been close a few times. And I think they're a different team with McLeod Bethel Thompson as quarterback. Obviously he's a seasoned guy who's thrown for a lot of yards in this league and won. So you're going to see a real hungry team tomorrow in Edmonton. They realize too, you going out of the gate 0-4. I mean, you're starting to really have to climb uphill early in the year. You're starting to have to climb uphill. And that sometimes is a road that just it's too big to climb. So, again, you're going to see a real good football game tomorrow night. It's going to be a tough, hard-nosed. Chris Jones and that defense are going to come ready to play. So should be an exciting one.
All right, Julio, finally, and not a question from me. It is a big thank you. Hopefully, you're able to hear me okay, because this is the most important, honestly, from me here tonight, Julio. A thank you from me because I applied for my media credentials and got them on a game by game basis for the team. So hoping to start covering the team a little bit more here, coming over on a regular basis. So I want to thank you because you've always been so generous with your time. A person that, or you've been someone that kind of put it in my brain that something like this could be possible. So just thank you so much. You've been such a big mentor to me and always generous with your time, Julio. So just big thank you. And I'm super grateful for you always coming on.
Okay. All right on, buddy. I think I caught most of that, but I thought I heard that you're going to get a media pass. So now that you're going to be in the press box, does that mean you're going to bring food?
I can bring you some food, Julio.
You bring food?
I can bring food.
Some like treats, like jujubes, kind of stuff?
Yeah, I got you. I got you, Julio.
So what I'm hearing is if I bring Julio food, then I can get in the press box too?
That's... But Julio,
good for you, Cole. I'm happy for you, buddy. I know how passionate you are about the game, so good for you, and I look forward to seeing you more often.
All jokes aside, Julio, like I mentioned, just so thankful for you, and hopefully we'll see you soon. That is.
Thanks, guys.
Later,
Cheers.
Julio. That is. Hopefully everybody's able to hear me all right. Please let me know in the chat if you guys are hearing Blake and I all right. Sorry about the little technical difficulties coming in on our end. Hopefully it's not too big. I honestly am wondering if it was Julio that wasn't able to hear us correctly.
Yeah, I think that was more of my bad than anything else, Cole.
Yeah, maybe. I know there was a little bit of background noise, but that was an issue. See, like Jim's saying all right. He said, Jay said I can hear you fine. So please let us know. Yeah, I think Jim said it was Julio's. So please let us know, folks, if we're coming in okay. Hopefully we are, and hopefully there's not too many technical issues going on. That was Julio Caravetta talking some BC Lions football with Blake and I once again. And we do have 57 viewers tuning in right now. So if you guys enjoyed that little segment with Julio, hopefully able to catch all of it. If you weren't, go back and catch the little segment after we are done recording. You guys can go to the Canadian Football Fanatics YouTube page, press the little... Yep.
Before we go any further, Jim's actually watching us live today. He said that usually he doesn't get the chance to watch us live. So shout out to our one Lions fan out there in Regina, Jim.
Yes, shout out to Jim. So Yeah, what was sorry, what was I going on about?
I lost track too.
I forget. If you guys remember, please throw it in the chat below. But Blake, let's just get on to previewing the BC Lions and the Edmonton Elks tomorrow night. It should be a dandy one. I'm actually expecting it to be a little bit closer than I think people, maybe Lions fans, expect. But like I mentioned before, excited to officially cover this as my first ever CFL game, one I will never forget. So looking forward to being in the building. Blake, what are you looking forward to tomorrow?
Yeah, I'm actually really looking forward to a good game. I listened to our buddies at the Turf District podcast yesterday, of course, the kind of flagship Edmonton Elks podcast. And they were saying, and after I listened to them a little bit more, they were saying that the Elks have been really close. And if you look at their games, they're not wrong. They probably should have won in week number 1 against the Riders. Unfortunately, they blew a big lead. And then they were right there with the two teams that were in the Eastern Final last year, including the one that won 16-2. And if not for a missed field goal, or a made field goal, I should say, I could have gone a perfect 4-0 again last week in our picks. But no, in all seriousness, they've been really close. And McLeod Belta Thompson had a really good game on Saturday as well, throwing for, I believe it was over 350 yards, 368 or something like that. Jay, maybe you can fact check me and put that in the chat. And 4 touchdowns and no interceptions. So that offense has actually looked pretty good here to start the season.
Yeah, so as I was mentioning before, what I was talking about, 67 listeners, viewers right now on Twitter, on YouTube, on Facebook. If you guys are tuning in on Facebook and Twitter or YouTube, please like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Let us know where you're tuning in from in the chat below. We'd love to know where you're tuning in from. We know Jim's obviously tuning in from Saskatchewan. We're not sure where Brian is tuning in from. He's actually a loyal listener. I know he's been a consistent listener actually all season long. He says Perry the CFL is Winnipeg. What a joke. He also says Chris Jones retirement tomorrow. Yeah, I think the pressure needs to be put on if they get to 0-4, 0-5. I know we touched on it a few weeks ago on the show, or maybe last week on the show. Or no, I believe it was with JC actually, who if they kind of get to that 0-4 and 5, he believes as well that pressure should be put on the Elks organization in terms of Chris Jones not being the man in charge anymore, especially with that dual coach GM tag. He kind of gets to run the ship, bring in. He gets to go to the grocery store, buy the groceries, and he's cooking the food. Blake, this is preposterous. We're not seeing results, man. So, like I was saying before I go off on another tangent, 68 listeners tuning in tonight. If you guys are tuning in on YouTube specifically, hopefully you guys are.
Just a
Please subscribe.
Yeah,
Please.
just a quick update on that. We're now 7 away from our goal of 200, Cole.
Nice. So we're at 193. Let's
We have until
hopefully
Monday.
folks. So let's get that up. We have 70 now, Blake, listening, viewing live here tonight. Please head over to YouTube, folks. If you guys aren't, if you're on Twitter, on Facebook, head over to our YouTube page, Canadian Football Fanatics, and subscribe. Blake, quick mental math here on the channel. I know you're good at it. 75% of 70, what is it?
Like 56, 57, something
Okay,
like that.
56 of the 70 people listening here tonight aren't subscribed to the channel. So please, pretty please, with a cherry on top, go to the channel and subscribe. Blake and I would greatly appreciate it. The content is only going to get better from here on out with more access. So please subscribe and stay tuned for all the fun that's going to be had here all season long. Blake, we're only a month into the season, buddy. This train keeps moving for 18 more weeks. We
What do you
got a
mean
long
only
way.
a month? I can't believe it's already been a month.
Yeah, I guess that's true, actually. I feel you on that one. It's already been a month. That's crazy to think about it now. I remember, week one, I remember concert kickoff, obviously, coming over for the home opener, and that always seems like it's been like that since it happened. But let's get back to talking about the BC Lions hosting the Edmonton Elks tomorrow night in BC Place at 7 o'clock Pacific time kickoff. My only gripe is that why wasn't it god darn 4 o'clock kickoff so that I could stay for longer afterwards and cover the game a little bit better than I hoped. But it is what it is when you live on the island, I guess. So
It's
let's
also
get
a
into
Thursday night. They were never going to have it that
yeah.
early.
Shake my head at the CFL for doing that. What a test. Let's get into it, Blake. And I think let's start with what Julio was a little bit talking about earlier as well as both teams coming off short weeks.
Hmm.
Obviously the Lions playing on Friday, playing on Thursday. That's a 6-day rest, or 6-day turnaround if that's what you want to call it. I think for those people that are maybe Lions fans or just fans of either side, kind of wanting to use the rest excuse. I feel like it's early in the season. Specifically, I'm talking to Lions fans here. The Elks played on Saturday, so BC has a 1-day advantage here, as well as Edmonton
Yeah,
did
and
play,
MBT was very upset about that in his
and
media availability yesterday.
Edmonton played in Toronto, if I'm not mistaken. So
They
coming
did.
from across the country, BC obviously plays in Winnipeg. So yes, it is far. It's not going to Alberta. It's not close, but Winnipeg is not Toronto by any means. So after playing, I believe what was it 7? Was it a 7 o'clock kickoff on Saturday? The Elks
Yeah,
and
the Elks game was a 7 o'clock Eastern kickoff.
so that means they probably didn't get home to Edmonton till probably Sunday morning, early Sunday morning sometime. So, you know, tough turnaround for them because then they play it on Thursday. The Lions, probably got home, yeah, Saturday morning, but were able to probably sleep in their beds, get up, maybe get to the facility, get some treatment in, and kind of recover a whole day in advance before the Elks even got home. So that excuse for me doesn't really play. I think you're a professional athlete, you get paid for situations like that. Although I agree with them, it's ridiculous for some of these 5-day turnarounds. Um, I just think early in the season,
The NFL
Lions kind
does
of
four though.
yeah, that's what I mean. I think it's tough to use that excuse, especially when you get paid millions of dollars. I know it's shitty. It is a shitty situation. It's just it's kind of like when you get paid millions of dollars and you have to do media and stuff like that and stuff that you don't like, but you have to do because that's your job. It's I feel like the same thing. You don't like to play on short weeks, but you do it because it's your job and you get paid handsomely to do it. Maybe not handsomely if you're in the CFL, but get paid pretty nicely. So it's going to be interesting to see both teams on a short week. But that being said, the benefit of a short week, Blake, is the following week is like a mini bye. I'm pretty sure the
Yeah,
Lions play on Sunday the following
Sunday.
week, so the Lions will be off for 10
And the
whole
Elks
days.
are actually on a bye, so they're like, I think they have
Yeah,
after tomorrow night they have like, no, because that's I'm planning on going to Edmonton, so they have like 17 days off after
A-
tomorrow.
MBT has nothing to complain about. The Lions getting 10 days off, the Elks being on a bye afterwards, you'll be able to lick your wounds. And if not that I hope injury on nobody, the Trey Ford era could begin once again in Edmonton if McLeod doesn't want to play enough games. But like I said, not wishing injury or anything upon anybody. All jokes aside, seriously considering are seriously interested in seeing how these teams both kind of come out of the gates with them playing on short weeks. I think that is going to be a factor when it comes to maybe a slower start, but um, you know, maybe it comes to the second half, they can kind of empty the tank because they know they're going to get, for the Lions side of things, I would think they're going to probably get at least 3 or 4 good days off, like 3 or 4 days from
Mm.
away from the facility where they don't have meetings or anything like that, no scheduled practices, anything like that. Obviously, I'm sure they're coming into into Surrey, into the practice facility, maybe for a workout or something like that, maybe for some treatment, or to maybe watch like some film or something like that for guys like Brandon Adams, the junkies. I'm sure they're kind of getting in there and being a little bit more hands on when it comes to watching film. But for some of those guys that are able to, some of the offensive linemen, guys that are really having a lot on their bodies when it comes to these short weeks. Maybe it's those guys that really get a good 4 days away from the facility after playing on Thursday and playing on Sunday. That is Sunday is going to Hamilton, correct, Blake?
Yeah,
Yeah, so I would imagine they're going to fly out Saturday. So I would imagine they're going to probably get Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday off, where you have Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday
Thursday.
practice, Friday walkthrough, and then fly out Saturday. So, if you're the Lions, I think come the fourth quarter, that's where it's time to turn it on and not sell out, but time to empty the tank because you know what, boys, we got 4 good days of rest. before we even have to think about starting to game plan for Hamilton, starting to think about week 5. So I think the short week is definitely going to come into effect, but at the same time, I think it should benefit the Lions come the back end. Hopefully, not the Elks that get the motivation of saying, you know what, boys, we're on a 2 week bye. Let's get extra, or let's kind of empty the tank even more. That being said, though, Blake, let's get into it, which we didn't talk to Julio about. And I wanted to save it. I guess you did tease a little bit about the position, but I wanted to save it for this segment because I wanted to talk specifically with you and hopefully our listeners here tonight. But we see obviously Stanley Berryhill is going to be put officially into the full-time starting lineup here. With obviously started last week with Katoy out of the lineup, but
Yeah,
with Travis Fulgham being cut on, was it Monday, Blake, if I'm not mistaken?
yeah, it was Monday.
Um, I believe he will now be a full-time starter regardless until Keon Hatcher comes back. I think uh, maybe I guess a segue here, Blake, is how impressed or maybe how not impressed have you been with Aiden Eberhart and Stanley Berryhill? And I think the debate will be, or maybe just I guess the opportunity for both of them will be, who comes out of the lineup when Keon Hatcher returns.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the kind of competition, if you will, as we do know that Javon is going to make his return to the lineup after missing the Winnipeg game last week. So, as you mentioned, Keon Hatcher, JC, when he was on a couple weeks ago, said Keon's kind of aiming for touchdown Pacific, or at least that's his own personal goal to come back. So you have we're at the end of June now, so you have really 2 months worth of games for Stanley Berryhill and Aiden Eberhart to try and stake their claim to that kind of fifth wide receiver spot before Keon Hatcher comes back.
Yeah, I guess tough to say, and like you mentioned, right, it's probably a competition until then. But personally, I've liked what I've seen from Aiden Eberhard. He's caught every ball I believe that's been targeted or thrown his way, right, which is what we've heard from him. A very reliable target, kind of somebody that's been compared to Brian Burnham. You throw it his way, he's going to come down with the ball. And I would like to see him get more opportunity. I think it's just unfortunate because VA's had, if I'm not mistaken, leads the league in passing yards. A very good 3 games. So it's tough to say, VA needs to throw Aiden Eberhard's way more. Well, I don't know if you guys have checked. Alex Hollins had a 200-yard game. He leads the CFL in receiving. Justin McInnes
And
is number
Justin
4.
McInnes is
Yeah,
3. Or is he? Is it 4?
I believe he's 4.
Okay.
Or maybe I misread the 3 or 4. Either way, he has 2 of the top 4 targets in the CFL right now. When it comes to stats, stats obviously don't tell a whole story, but they also do tell a little bit of the story or a good chunk of the story. So, um, I think it would just be kind of try to be try to keep business as usual for Aiden Eberhart. When VA throws your way, make sure that there's no drops, there's no miss routes, don't run the wrong route type thing. If some of those option routes, make sure you're kind of communicating with Vernon Adams a little bit before the game at practice, right? If my inside defender's here, do you want me to curl out and keep going to the sideline? Do you want me to curl out and sit down? Right, that's something we saw with Travis Fulgham last week. Obviously, one of the incompletions, right? He curls out, he doesn't sit down right away where Vernon Adams throws it at him, right? Travis Fulgham keeps going to the sideline where what VA saw, right, is there's a defender towards the sideline. If you throw it towards the sideline, obviously it could be either a suicide pass or if it's a little bit too far to the sideline, interception, and it could be pick six, right? So, curling to the outside and stopping at the drop of a hat, right, is super minute details, and that's why professionals run things like option routes, right? If you go into the high school more specifically, I know we did a little bit in the CJFL in terms of being able to have a few option routes, but it was very limited and I would say very little execution in game as well. Obviously, some coaches would try to implement it in practice and stuff like that, and give you that freedom in practice. But when it came to the game, it was usually whenever it was drawn up on paper, you ran that route. When it comes to the professionals, they're able to do those option routes because you run through those repetitions so much. You get so much repetition running with your quarterback, right, that you know what he's going to do, you know when he's going to turn out. If I'm Aiden Eberhart, get with Vernon Adams, make sure you're communicating. Where I'm supposed to be, what's my responsibility in all assets of the playbook, and kind of learn that way. I feel like that's the best way to make yourself a valuable option for VA. So interested to see how that competition plays out, and I would love to see one of them get into the end zone, whether that's Stanley Berryhill or Aiden Eberhart this week. Time will tell. We also got obviously the news Javon Katoy is back in the lineup. this week, which is a good sight to see. He only missed one game, so must have been minor, which was mentioned. But just good to see it come to fruition. Him being back in a week, I believe it was probably more precautionary, more so than anything. Of we're playing Winnipeg in week 3. Let's not lose you for the entire season for one game in Winnipeg. Let's shut you down, make sure you're okay. I know you're probably closer to 100%, but let's make sure be as smart as possible. Now, I guess let's get into the offensive line here. Um, and I guess we don't have to get too much into the offensive line, just other than need them to protect BA this week. I guess we can kind of transition it and kind of maybe a good segue as well as just talking about the protection of the offensive line and how important I think that's going to be this week when it comes to BA playing with a abdominal injury. So obviously it's to somewhere in his stomach area or abdomen area. For me, I'm definitely a little bit more concerned than I think some are playing off. I don't know if you saw BA's media availability. He was definitely a little bit more cold when it comes to the media. I'm not too sure if he was doing that because of the injury and on purpose, but he's usually a little bit more detailed in his answering when he talks to the media, and I just don't know if he was like that was playing into his gamesmanship why he was being short with that kind of stuff. Like I would definitely recommend if you haven't already, buddy, go check out that
I
media
haven't, but I
availability.
will.
Yeah, go check out the media availability. Let me know if you maybe think I'm overreacting or if maybe you kind of feel the same way because he's I feel like a little bit more cheery or maybe just a little bit more emotion and like I said, detailed answers,
Yep.
which I feel like is being very short. Um, I think it is a little bit more of a concern because um, number one, the quick twitch muscles in your your abs there that you need your core for throwing right. A lot of that comes from your energy that you can kind of get into your core, generate it into your hips there, and kind of bring it through when you throw right. And I think
One
how
way
does
to.
that? Well,
Sorry, Cole.
Russell or the Dak Prescott, is that what you're going to say?
No,
Or
no, I was gonna say. I didn't mean to cut you off there, but as some of our listeners have brought up, one way to take the pressure off BA is make sure he doesn't have to pass the ball. Just turn around and hand it off to William Standback.
Yeah, so we'll get into that in 3 games, maybe a little, or three games, 3 keys, maybe a little bit later, but good teaser. But I think just for me, also him being the short yardage quarterback and having bodies piled on top of him when it comes to those situations, as well as, he kind of said he woke up and it didn't feel right in his media availability, I believe yesterday, because he's had 2 this week. I believe Julio said, right, he was full on Monday, didn't practice Tuesday, and then full today. Woke up Tuesday, wasn't feeling 100% correct, and just kind of was precautious with it. Now, good thing, right? But you're not going to feel good when, let's say, uh, insert Elks defensive lineman hits you from behind when you release the ball, right? Or let's say it's in the fourth quarter and you've been hit all game and you get a linebacker blitzing right down the pipe and he blows you up, right? And that's my question mark is sustainability, I guess. And I think it's definitely a fair thing, but I think it's been pretty commonly criticized when it comes to BA. He's a smaller guy, right? And it's been
Mm-hmm.
maybe a knack on him throughout his career that he is a little bit more, I hate the word injury prone, but more at risk to injury, if that's what you want to call it, being a little bit smaller, slighter frame. And I think we've seen that in his time with BC. Like, no offense to VA, but I feel like he's got hurt a decent amount of times. Like to compare, I feel like the I guess we didn't see Nathan for a full 2 years, so I was gonna say I feel like bad comparison, but obviously we saw BA a little bit banged up last year with the knee, kind of missing a few games. This year we saw him with the hand to start the year, and
Now the
then
abdomen.
now the abdomen. Not a good sign, especially when we get our quarterback to be our short yardage quarterback. So another weekly reminder to find somebody else, please, and let's do it fast because VA doesn't need to take any more hits. Let's get into, I guess, a quick segue to the defense before we get out of here and talk some CFL quick picks with Shane. Um, Transition to defense, Blake. I've been critical, so I'm going to hear about your opinion. I've been pretty vocal on my criticism of the secondary on our back and forth together. I think I'd like to see a little bit more. I feel like for me, they've just been always a step behind in the last 2 weeks. Whereas, um, in recent history, I feel like they've been they've been a little bit better, which is maybe, last year it's a little bit different, right? And maybe it goes to show like the complementary football and how much that factors in because of the missing sacks this year, right? And maybe how fast Matthew Betts and David Menard and some of those guys getting to the quarterback pays a little bit into this when it comes to the back end being a half step behind when it comes to the ball, right? And they're not getting torched, right? They're not getting burned by any means, right? They're not getting embarrassed, but when it comes to those breaking up passes on 2nd and 7 that we saw last year, 2nd and 8, getting off the field on some of these downs, we're not seeing some of those plays anymore. So I've been pretty vocal on, like I said, my criticism. I like the moves that they made here and shaking things up. Jordan Perryman comes out of the lineup. Deontay Evans goes out to the corner, a veteran. And I think why they're doing this, right, is a guy like Shanti Evans, right, a veteran in the CFL, kind of knows his role, knows his responsibilities out there playing on the field side. You have a guy like Gary Peters, bona fide number 1 corner in the boundary. Gary's going to be able to be in charge of locking down the boundary side for all 60 minutes, to shut down the field side of the field. For the most part, just make sure nobody gets behind you. You can pretty much rely on anything underneath you and make sure you come down and make a tackle. Now you have to be surefire. You have to be a good tackler, right? You have to make sure you wrap up and make sure you get him down, because if you miss on that field side, it's a lot of field to cover for everybody else. But like the moves that they made, Deontay Evans being a veteran, I think he'll be a little bit more suited to playing corner in the CFL. Jordan Perryman, a first-year CFL guy, maybe he's still trying to get used to the game of the waggle, yard out the ball, all that sort of stuff. But then we've seen fan favorite Ronald Kent get shifted into the inside playing halfback where Deontay Evans was. Blake, what are your thoughts on the moves, and what's your opinion on how the secondary's been playing?
Yeah, I thought the secondary's been okay. They haven't been great. I'm excited to see what Ronald Kent does. The one thing that worries me a lot, and it's because he's someone that we've talked about the last 2 weeks for sure, is Ben Hladek is not going to play tomorrow. I heard that he's out, I guess, with an injury. I didn't take a close enough and look at the injury report throughout the week, other than when
So,
it came out.
so he had
Sorry, go ahead.
a hand procedure actually done today, Blake. Which, reading it, is maybe a little bit concerning. You wonder, oh snap! Anytime he has surgery, right? Not a good sign. But from what has been reported, it was a procedure that was supposed to get him ready to play on Thursday. I believe there is a little bit, like I said, I don't even want to use the word setback, but I believe more so of kind of what they did with VA, being precautious. It's a week 4 thing. You don't want to get anything like that infected. Anything that could make it a longer term injury when it comes to something that could be a week long injury. You don't want to make things worse. So or keep going on the linebacker and Ben Hladek though, Blake.
Yeah, so I was just going to say, I don't think that enough people have been talking about the fact that he won't play tomorrow. So I'm interested to see how guys like, as you mentioned, Deontay Evans, as I already mentioned, Ronald Kent, Jordan Perryman can kind of step up. As he's been averaging, I think, like 10 tackles per game. He had the interception in the Calgary game to the home opener. So his production is going to have to come from somewhere else. Is that going to be the D line? Someone like Pete Robertson, maybe he gets a sack or two. Someone like Christian Covington, who's only had 1 sack so far this year. It's going to be interesting to see. Jay was able to correct us in the comments here as I just go back. It was 342 and 4 touchdowns for MBT last week. So not a bad game at all. And as Jay also says, Bo Lacumbo is going to slot in for Hladek. So a veteran on that BC Lions team. He's been there. He's done that. He kind of knows what to do, but he hasn't started so far this year. So it'll be interesting to see. Honestly, I'm expecting that we might see a bit of a shootout here at BC Place tomorrow night.
Yeah, I agree, and I'm definitely I guess or I wouldn't even say excited. I guess happy would be the better word, of having a guy like veteran Bola Combo to come off the bench and fill in for a guy like Ben Hladek. But I'm more curious to see if we see any of Ryder Varga tomorrow night, who's another depth linebacker at Canadian we drafted from Regina, I believe, in 2022. Went back to school and then came back last year, but tore his ACL, missed a majority of the year, came back later in the year, looked good, and I believe he played in Saskatchewan and then got re-injured. Has been on the sideline. He was at on the sidelines at training camp. Was a guy that I was interested to see, but back on the field now, feeling 100%. And I know he's going to be dressed tomorrow, so interested to see if he gets on the field when it comes to any run looks from the Edmonton Elks. I know Kevin Brown's been somewhat struggling, if you want to say that, for the Elks. So I'm interested to see when it comes to any three backer looks. Do we see Ryder Varger come on the field, or do they trust Manny or Gumba and some of their guys to stay on the field when it comes to who's at will? So without further ado, Blake, I guess before we give our picks, stay tuned for tomorrow's three keys to victory, excuse me, which I'll be releasing tomorrow, and I will tease that. And I won't release them here tonight on the show. Actually, Blake, we'll switch things up. So stay tuned for that, and stay tuned for our BC Lions picks here in a matter of moments. But I think it is time to bring in our guest of the hour here, as always, at 7 o'clock. Shane Ryan from 13th Man Sports joining us for our CFL quick picks. Shane, thanks for joining us, buddy. How you doing?
Oh,
Shane, I think you're muted.
there we go.
There you go. I forgot to hit on mute. My bad. I was just sending off a quick tweet.
How you doing, though, buddy? Good?
Yeah, I'm good. How are you guys?
Yeah, we're doing good.
Excited to talk some CFL football, as always. Hope you're able to watch a little bit of the episode before. You're talking, some lines, talking to Julio. And then, as always, 7 o'clock time, we take our picks of the week, joined by Shane, as always. So, for anybody that's tuning in, we got 83 live listeners over on YouTube, Twitter,
Shane now,
and Facebook. We will get into that in a matter of moments. But if you guys are tuning in right now, if you're joining the first hour of the episode and looking forward to the next half an hour, please like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. If you're watching for the first time on Facebook, like I mentioned, please follow 13th Man Sports on any other platforms as well. You can find some of our good work, all of our contributions to the platform as well. So thankful for 13th Man Sports for allowing us to be on Facebook for the first time tonight. So let's get into it, fellas. The first game of the week, we get to start with our BC Lions this week, Blake. And let's go to Shane, because obviously there's no need to hide the fact that Blake and I are going with the BC Lions. Shane, who you picking and why?
So I'm picking BC. They're ridiculously favored. They're 7.5 point favorites. They're minus 350 on the money line. The over/under set at 52.5, which I think is a little bit generous given the two teams. I think this could be a sleeper game. I like Edmonton on the spread. I don't think Edmonton could lose by more than a touchdown. But I have BC winning. They're going to dominate most of the game. That defense is still an issue. There's playmakers in Edmonton. I think it's going to be a shootout. I don't think it's going to be a high-scoring shootout, but I think it's definitely going to be one of those games where BC allows Edmonton to stay in it a little bit more than they should.
Yeah, no argument from me. I don't think any argument from Blake probably on that.
Nope.
I expect, like you said, I don't know if the right word is shootout, because I expect maybe a 24-21 type game, 27-24, a little bit of a lower type of shootout, but I expect both defenses to kind of struggle when it comes time to get maybe some crucial stops, whether it's maybe before the half, where maybe Edmonton kind of cuts it to a one-score game before half. Maybe it's in the fourth quarter where the Elks can't get that pivotal stop and the Lions are able to score. I think defenses are kind of going to be able to struggle. I think both defenses have been the weaker side of the weaker units for both through 3 weeks here. I think, like we talked a little bit about, MVT's been looking all right. And the Elks offensively have been looking all right. It's just not being able to put it all together for 60 minutes. So I expect them to be competitive. Like we were talking about earlier as well, come time, maybe second half, they understand that they are going into a bye week. They're able to empty the tank a little bit more than you are in a given week, right? Let's try to sell out for this win and get it before we go into the bye week with a little bit of confidence, maybe going 1-3. I think ultimately they just come up short once again and go into the bye 0-4. Blake, any other thoughts when it comes to this game? It's a clean sweep for the BC Lions, I'm guessing, but anything else when it comes to BC taking on Edmonton tomorrow?
No, I agree with Shane. I think the Lions, not that they're going to take the Elks lightly per se. I mean, I think they know the Elks are a better team than last year, but for that exact reason, the Elks being a better team than last year, I think it'll be a closer game than any of the three times they played last year. I believe that the last one was with Trey Ford as the quarterback, but the other two were with Taylor Cornelius, and MBT is just worlds and worlds better than Taylor Cornelius. So I expect the Elks to be able to put up some points, but ultimately the Lions are going to be too strong at home.
Absolutely. So clean sweep, like I mentioned, for BC. And let's get on to some Friday night football once again, and a game I'm actually looking super excited for. I'm hoping to get off early on Friday, sneak in a quick nap after my night of adventures on Thursday, and then hopefully wake up in time for kickoff and enjoy a Friday night football game. I think is going to be a good one when is it Montreal going to Toronto in the battle of undefeateds in the Eastern Division. Obviously, Toronto had a bye in week 2, so only 2-0, but should be a battle of heavyweights in the Eastern Division. Blake, I'll go to you first. Who are you picking and why?
I kind of went back and forth on this one, but ultimately I'm going to go with the reigning, defending Grey Cup champions in the Montreal Alouettes. I think that, and Cameron Dukes has proven that the Argos don't need that other quarterback that shall go unnamed, as they put up 35 points against the BC Lions and then 39 last week against the the Elks. That's who they were playing last week. But I think that Montreal defense is better than both of those defenses, probably combined. We've talked about the Lions' kind of struggles, the Elks as well. So I think Cameron Dukes, this is going to be his first real true test of his 9-game resume, and I think he's going to be unable to come up to the challenge. It's going to be a close game, but I'll say the Alouettes by a field goal.
All right, Shane, I will pass it down to you. Blake has Montreal by field goal. Who you picking and why?
Picking Montreal, I mean, I think you watch them so far this year, they're easily the best team in the league, and I don't think it's close in terms of who the next best is. But it's a good opportunity for Cameron Dukes to come out and show that he's a consistent CFL star. I like Montreal. They're 3.5-point favorites right now. They're minus 170 on the money line. Personally, I think they beat them by more than 3 points. I think it's going to be a touchdown game. I think defensively is where it's going to be the big game changer. That Montreal defense is nasty. They love getting after the ball. They will if Cameron Dukes makes mistakes, they will make him pay for it. Cameron Duke needs to play as clean of a game as he can for Toronto to have a chance. I think Montreal is too good to pass up this week.
Yeah, I agree with most of what you're saying. I too am going with Montreal, but the fact that we are going all the same answers here through 2 games makes me tempted to pick Toronto here last second. I just can't do the fact of what you said there, Shane. Of Montreal's looked so dominant this through 3 games. They're clear head and shoulders the best team in the CFL so far this season, and it's hard to pick against them. But that being said, I give Toronto more than a puncher's chance. I think just with both their offensive and defensive lines, the way they're able to, on offense, protect the football, not turn it over too much, as well as run the ball with, Kadeem Carey's kind of looked. I wouldn't say like prime Kadeem Carey, but when he gets the ball, he's making things happen. Obviously, Daniel Adeboboye is kind of been dropped down to that RB3 now. With I forget his name that kind of was taking some carries last week, but also they have kind of 3 backs here that they've been using. Yeah, McMahon. Thank you, Blake. 3 backs that they've been using that have been effective. Their receiving cores aren't crazy by any means, but they have like 4 or 5 guys that are just reliable. When you throw them the ball, they make it happen. And I think Cameron Dukes doesn't have. I don't know if it's a little bit of kind of luck or like a lure with him, but I feel like he has a little bit of that factor with him that the guys kind of rally around him. You see him have all those handshakes with the guys after the game. They clearly play for him. They clearly rally behind him. So I think the Toronto Argonauts are going to be fired up to play this one, but it's just I think Montreal is just too much of a wagon right now. They're going to be coming ready to play, especially show that they're the best team in the East for a reason. That offense has been just on fire. I don't see who's slowing down Cody Fajardo, Tyson Philpott to name the two guys that have been getting all the headlines, but should be an interesting one. I'll take Montreal, and let's get to Saturday, which I'm hoping we're going to have a little bit of some change here because I think we're going to be somewhat similar in the last matchup of the week. But for Saturday, we have Winnipeg at Calgary, and I'll go first here, and I'm going to take Winnipeg for the simple fact I think it's their time to get on the board. Now, I'm not taking Winnipeg with confidence. Also, with seeing Dalton Schoen being placed on the 6-game injured list, it makes me question their offense and if they're going to be able to put up points this week. Calgary's also looked very good. I think this is the week that Calgary comes back down to earth a little bit. And I think it's just, for whatever reason, Winnipeg's time. Now, maybe I'm kind of picking with my heart instead of my head here and kind of trying to will this to victory. And I did that a few times last season with Edmonton. So maybe I'm playing with a little bit of fool's gold here. But hopefully this gives me an opportunity to go one up on one of you suckers. I will take Winnipeg, and I think they get back on the win column. I will pass things now to Shane. Shane, who you picking and why?
I'm taking Calgary. I think there's too many issues going on with Winnipeg. I think Dalton Schoen's on his 6th game now. I think Brady's coming back, but how much can he offset the loss of Dalton Schoen? I like what Calgary's done so far. I don't know. I think this game's kind of a toss-up. I don't like the fact that Winnipeg's the favorite. In my opinion, I think they've been given too much of too much leash by bookmakers to start the year as an 0-3 team. Like they're minus 180. I think Calgary is plus 140 on the money line. The spread is 4.5. I think it's a little bit too generous, but I'm taking Calgary on the money line and Calgary on the spread. I just think Calgary's going to be a better team this week.
I love it. Blake, who are you picking and why?
Yeah, this was another game that I went very back and forth on between the Winnipeg Blue Bombers and the Calgary Stampeders. But my thoughts were very similar to Shane's. I think the Blue Bombers, they just have too many injuries piling up right now. I believe they've lost a couple of guys on each side of the ball on the line, one on the O-line, one on the D-line. They're not going to have Dalton Schoen. They don't have Kenny Lawler right now. We talked about it lots last week. Zach Claros did a good job of getting them down the field, but in his last now 5 CFL games, the West Final last year, the Grey Cup last year, and the first 3 weeks of this season, he has not thrown a touchdown pass. Calgary, as you said, it's looked a little bit better than we thought, and I'm going to say that about the next game as well, at least one of those teams. So I think that the Calgary Stampeders go above 500 for the second time this year and send the Winnipeg Blue Bombers to 0-4.
Well, I'm hoping for a Winnipeg win, I guess, this week, boys. And let's get to the last matchup of the week, and that is Hamilton traveling to Shane's Ottawa Redblacks, and no one to start other than Shane. Who you picking and why?
So this one's a toss-up. The spread's at 1.5, which it just shows you that it can go either way. Ottawa's I can't believe I can based off of Hamilton's record at 0-3. Ottawa is plus 1 or minus 120 favorites. They're 1.5 point favorites. I like Ottawa in this game. I think Ottawa comes out and gets the dub. I like everything that Ottawa has. Again, this is where I think Montreal just proved how good they really are. They took advantage of an inexperienced quarterback. They were able to create turnovers on the ground. They were able to take advantage of some inexperienced DBs against Ottawa. I think there's more issues in Hamilton than there is in Ottawa. Tim White hasn't really looked like a top end receiver. They've dealt with some more drops than they usually do. I like Ottawa. I think they win by 6 points. I think it's a close game. I don't think it goes over 30 points each. I'd be surprised if either team could knock 30 on the scoreboard. But I think Drew Brown and the rest of them bounce back this week. Hamilton is just too incomplete on offense for it to be a good enough difference to change my mind. So I think if you're looking at this, I think Ottawa at the money line at minus 120, you put them in a spread, or you take you put them in a parlay, or you put the minus 1.5 for Hamilton if you're feeling. But I think Ottawa should be the clear favorite. Should go into this game knowing that they're the better team. Should be able to come top with a win and be tied with Toronto at the end of the week at 2-1.
Yeah, so let's go to Blake. Who you picking and why?
I'm gonna come right out and say this. I'm picking Ottawa. It's kind of show me what type of team you really are. Week 2, they looked really good. We can kind of debate in hindsight who they beat, but week 3 they looked terrible. They were down 30-1 at half. But to be kind of honest, I kind of expected that. I thought that Montreal would come out all cylinders firing. They had the Grey Cup banner raising. They had their home opener. They had all that stuff. I expected that from Montreal. So I think Ottawa is kind of somewhere in the middle. Hamilton, I don't know what they are yet. Like they didn't look good in week number 1. They looked really good up until the last, 3-4 minutes in week number 2. And then again, last week, they looked really, really bad in Saskatchewan. And I think they're probably more closer to the week 1 and week 3 team than they are the week 2 team. Bo Levi Mitchell has played pretty good to start this season. But as Shane said, he has 2 receivers right now. And neither one of their names is Tim White. Keandre Smith and Shamar Bridges have become his go-to guys. Tim White has struggled immensely this season, and until he can get that figured out, those drops, mainly that key drop that led to the game-winning interception in week number 2, I just don't think Hamilton is going to be able to win games without their number 1 receiver.
Yep, well said, boys, and I will jump on the Ottawa bandwagon as well. I'm going to take them this week. I think you have more of an idea of who the Ottawa Red Blacks than the Hamilton Tiger Cats are. Although I agree with both you guys, Bo Levi Mitchell, I will, as not a, I've said it here on the podcast, many a times, not the biggest Bo Levi Mitchell fan now. Obviously, he is a made man. He has the resume for a reason. He is a CFL Hall of Famer, but when it comes to being a fan of Bo Levi Mitchell the last 4 or 5 years, that's not me, but I will. He's been playing, pretty close to what we used to see from Bo back in his Calgary days, and I just think, like I mentioned, Ottawa, we have more of an idea than Hamilton, and I think they'll take this one and get their second win of the year. So that will conclude our CFL quick picks. I see there's a few people chiming in with some of theirs, which is always awesome. Shout out to Bev who's tuning in. Bev, you're missing one pick. Let us know who you're taking in. What is it? Montreal and Toronto. And then I believe Jay actually has Lions Montreal Bombers. So appreciate everybody for tuning in, boys. We are over triple digits. We got 109 tuning in on all platforms. So shout out to everybody. 110. There we go. 110 people tuning in on all platforms. So yes, that's on the Canadian Football Fanatics Twitter, YouTube, as well as 13th Man Sports on Facebook. So shout out to everybody that's tuning in here tonight. We appreciate everybody so much. And looking forward to talking a much more football this season. Shane, before we get you out of here, buddy, obviously we talked a little bit off camera, but I just want to give you a big thank you on air for kind of allowing me to do my thing on your platform, for allowing me to contribute and stuff like that. I'm super grateful for the opportunity, and looking forward to what's in store for all of us here at 13th Man Sports, Canadian Football Fanatics. So before we get you out of here, buddy, just want to say thank you. And lastly, let the people know where they can find your work as well as 13th Man Sports on social media or the website.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate it. I know we talked a little bit off camera the other day. Good. Congrats on the news. That's great. You guys have been putting in great work. I'm glad to be part of it. Glad to have 13th Man part of it. For everyone who's listening, there will be a Canadian Football Fanatics page popping up on the 13th Man website in the coming days. We're just working on getting the final details of that page ironed out. So you'll be able to find all your Canadian Football Fanatics content in one easy, accessible area going forward. I'm going to be posting my picks, my game day parlays tomorrow morning if everything goes well. And yeah, I mean, there's going to be a recap of the Red Blacks game coming up next week after their game on Sunday. But yeah, I mean, I'm glad to be part of it. I'm glad to be a part of this show. You guys are doing great, so just keep it up. I'm excited to see what this year brings for everyone.
Yes, sir. Lastly, Shane, let the people know where they can find you on social media.
Yeah, Twitter's really the only place I'm big on. You can find me at SI_designs_. And then obviously 13th Man. You can find us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. If you're watching this on Facebook, you're already part of it. If not, you go over to our Facebook page. This way you can tune into all these guys' live streams and any more live streams that we'll be having throughout the year. Yeah, that's about it.
Awesome, Shane. Enjoy the weekend, buddy, and we'll talk to you next Wednesday at 7 o'clock Pacific time. Have a good weekend,
Thanks,
buddy, and
Shane.
we'll talk later.
Have a good one.
That was Shane Ryan of 13th Man Sports with our CFL quick picks once again. And guess freaking what, Blake? It is 7:22, and I can steer us out of here by 7:30. I don't want to jinx us because I feel like I'm about to go on a little bit of a rant here, but just not even a rant, just like super thankful, man. We're sitting here tonight. We're talking some CFL football where, for people that are unfamiliar with Blake and I's relationship, a year ago this time, I don't know if you remember it, but I don't know if we ever were familiar with each other at this time, maybe familiar in terms of Twitter profiles.
I think this was almost like we're almost coming up on a year to the day that we did our first post game together.
Yeah, we should definitely go find that video, and that'd be a cool date to remember because that was when basically all the fun started. I shouldn't say when all the fun started, but when plans kind of started to change and the switch in my head started to go off of possibly wanting to do this, hopefully as a career one day and taking this thing seriously. So from that point on, Blake and I have kind of dove head first in this thing, not having a lot of experience, but learning along the way and kind of, sometimes it is trial by error. Tonight we have some technical issues and there's been some times, I record a podcast episode and I don't have the audio of the guest, and there has to be some, embarrassing messages on my part of, sorry, I kind of, the audio isn't there. We don't have an episode. Is there any way we can record again? So, there's been ups, there's been downs. There's been a lot more ups and downs, which I'm super thankful of. But I'm just super thankful of the journey, super grateful. It has been so much fun to do this on a weekly basis. I don't hate my day job by any means. I enjoy kind of what I do. That being said, I don't know if I enjoy it for the next 40 some odd years. Let's say, let's hope, let's speak that into existence that I have another at least 45 years on this earth. Because who knows? But with my health and my eating habits, I'll be lucky to make it to 35, let's say. But just thinking about it, I love to talk about football. And that's what we've been able to do here for the last year, going on 2 years. But that I had the Coast to Coast Gridiron, and then got rebranded into the Canadian Football Fanatics. So I just really love talking football on a weekly basis, and that's something that I want to do. Hopefully full time one day. So that's kind of the goal here. And with starting the Canadian Football Fanatics last year, just wanted to kind of give myself more of a platform to talk Canadian football. And I think that's what we've done here with the channel. And just super grateful for everybody that's been following along. Like I said, 115 viewers, is what to say, guys, tuning in here tonight. And just super grateful for everybody that's tuned in and everybody that's supported along the way. Now, that being said, Blake, lastly, before I guess, get back on track, and maybe my second last reminder of the night. But if you are tuning in here tonight on Twitter, on Facebook, or on YouTube, please head over to our Canadian Football Fanatics channel and smash the subscribe button. It would be greatly, greatly appreciated. I think this will be kind of the last opportunity before July 1st to have a live show. Blake and I will, I guess, stay tuned for after my little stay tuned for after my little piece I have to say, and we'll kind of talk about it live on air, actually. But just super thankful. This will be the last time I believe we have a chance to have live listeners. So of the 114 of you, I don't know. I can do maybe my own mental math, probably like 75 or more, I believe, is 75% of 114. Easy one for me there. But I believe 75 plus of you that are tuning in right now aren't subscribed to us on YouTube. So please head on over there, folks. Subscribe. It'd be so much appreciated. And the fun is only beginning here this year, because I will be, like I mentioned earlier in the show, officially a member of the media with my credential media pass this upcoming game to the Edmonton Elks, the BC Lions versus Edmonton Elks. So I will have a chance to, be in the press box, be able to hopefully interview, Coach Campbell after the game, hear his thoughts and stuff like that. Hopefully a few players as well. So the content, the coverage is only going to get better here on the channel. So with that being said, subscribe so you guys don't miss out. When you guys subscribe, hit the little notification bell, and you guys will get notified every time we go live or upload any kind of content here on the channel. Take a deep breath here, Blake, and try to get this out of here by 3 minutes. I don't know if it's going to happen because we're going to have to do some live talking on the air, but let's talk about it now, buddy. How are we going to do a BC Lions post-game show tomorrow? My thoughts before I let you go is the game is probably going to end around 9:30 or 10 is my guess.
Yeah, somewhere around there, yeah.
Is that fair? And I think probably if it ends 9:30 or 10, we can definitely do a post game show live from the stadium, whether it's outside, whether it's in the stands. And excuse me, it won't be a post game show. It'll be more like the post game recap video that Blake and I posted on the YouTube channel. Was that week 2 for the BC Lions home opener? It was about a 7 or 8 minute clip.
7 minutes, yeah.
So it won't be too long. It'll be maybe like anywhere from 5 to 10 minute clip where we're able to give you our quick thoughts on the game. So expect something like that at the very least. When it comes to a post game show, I just don't think it's going to be feasible for us. I know Blake's planning on driving down to the game. He obviously could probably do it driving. I'm going to be walking / on a ferry, so I will be losing service partway through the ferry. Can't really do it walking the streets of Vancouver to the ferry. So I think live show is probably unrealistic. We could also do it. Anyone that's in the chat that's a BC Lions fan, so that's Jay, that's Jim, that's if it's Bev, that's a Lions fan as well. Let us know if you guys would like to see a post game show, a live show. We could do it Friday afternoon. Blake, I'm not too sure if you're working Friday, but Blake's not working, so we could do a post game show Friday afternoon.
I am busy on Friday though, so
okay. So never mind. Let's stick to a recap video then, Blake, that we will get out to the people on either late Thursday evening or early Friday morning. I will have that uploaded to the Canadian Football Fanatics on YouTube, on Instagram, on Twitter as well. So stay tuned for that, folks. We will have that to you, and maybe I know I see Jay here. He says Friday night works for him. Maybe we'll do something where if Blake has enough time, maybe we'll jump on the live stream for like maybe 15, 20 minutes. But that being said, that is a big maybe as of now. Jay, just stay tuned to our social media. Stay tuned to our YouTube channel. If you guys are subscribed, you guys will get notified every time Blake and I are, I believe it's 2 hours away from going live, 30 minutes from going live, and then you will get a notification when we go live so you guys won't miss out. Hit that little notification bell so you guys won't miss out. But best way possible is to stay tuned to our social media, and we will give you guys any updates as far as post-game shows. But as far as anything else, it is back to business. You guys will see my face tomorrow, maybe even Blake's face if we're able to get to the stadium fast enough for my BC Lions 3 keys to victory tomorrow night versus the Edmonton Elks. And then afterwards, you will see Blake and I's face for our BC Lions post-game recap. Expect a 5 to 10 minute quick video of our thoughts from the game and what we thought about the BC Lions' hopeful victory over the Edmonton Elks. We're going to hopefully speak it into existence here on the channel here tonight, Blake. The BC Lions' victory, making them 3-1 on the young season. Blake, I will pass it over to you and allow any final thoughts when it comes to our weekly show or the BC Lions this week, buddy?
Yeah, no, you pretty much covered all the thank yous, Cole. To see where you and I have come from, like I said, literally a year ago to even now is pretty special for myself. This is something that I want to do in the future, like sports media and stuff like that. So it's pretty amazing to see, and the biggest thank you for me goes to you, Cole. You know, you're my partner in this, and most importantly to me, you've become my friend. So you're someone that I consider very close with. You mentioned your partner Carly earlier. Carly is also someone that I somewhat consider a friend. I mean, we don't know each other super well yet, but I consider her a friend. Thank you for your support, Carly, and to my beautiful girlfriend, McKenna, my stepson, Jackson, and all my family too. Thank you guys. It really means so much to me.
Yes, a friend that hopefully one day will become a brother, without a doubt, buddy. It's been a journey, and I can't believe, like you said, it's only been a month, or it's been a month into the season. I can't believe it's been a year already that things
Yeah.
have flown by, and how things are changing and hopefully getting better for us here on the channel and for you guys that are watching. And as always, shout out to everybody that is watching here tonight. Like I said, 119 total. I believe there's a few on Facebook as well, but shout out to Bev. That's actually some of my BI Raider family right there. Shout out to Jay as always in the chat. Jim way out in Saskatchewan representing our Lions as he does. I know Brian was in here a little bit. And I believe we had a few others in the chat, but other than that, man, just super grateful, like we've
Jordan.
been saying. Jordan, yeah, on Facebook. Jordan was actually our first. We'll remember Jordan as our first Facebook listener on the Canadian Football Fanatics. But Blake, to close things out, 2 minutes past our goddamn deadline, 7:32, folks. A hour and a half, which you can expect from Blake and I every Wednesday night at 6 p.m. Pacific time, where you see or can listen to Blake and I talk some Canadian Football Fanatics, Canadian football, and some BC Lions as well. Blake, on behalf of us, I will close things out for tonight, and we'll see you guys next Wednesday night.